Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I get to talk to my good friend, Andrew Caters. He's an actor, a stunt double, and I met him back in Colorado. He was doing a short TV series called The Anomaly, and I got to do some behind the scenes videos. And since then we've just went different directions. He's in LA now, and I'm in Virginia. But I still kept in connection with him, and I was like, hey, I didn't want to bring him to the podcast because he's into the film industry, and I love movie making and filmmaking, photography, and being one of those. So, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I haven't done one of these in a little while, so this will be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, it's really good. I see that you've done some really awesome stuff. I was taking a look at IMDb. See, that's one place that I don't have a profile of my own, but I'm everywhere else.
That one you should do it for the film industry. That one's important.
Yes, super important. So I was looking through here, and I was looking through your Facebook, and it says you were a stunt double for Jack Ryan.
Yes,
I'm like, holy shit. I just watched this TV series like 2 months ago. I was like totally blown away. I was like, dude, this is awesome. And I'm like, whoa, I need to learn more. Like, how'd you get in touch? And, because I know you showed some martial arts and actually what's funny is that we did an interview during our shooting when we were shooting that office scene. And I was like, we need some interviews. So I was like, that was my first ever interview by anybody.
Yes, I was there for the first. Awesome.
And you were for the first. And I'm like, dude, I need to interview this guy again. It was so awesome. And you tell me how, you've done martial arts because you do a lot of training and stunts. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you get it? Like, how did it all start? Like, where does the journey start for?
Oh boy. My journey with like martial arts and everything, that kind of started when I was a kid. My parents just were wondering if I was curious in doing it. And I'm like, sure, why not? That was a 90s, so all the Kung Fu movies were huge. And it's like, I want to be one of the action stars. So yeah, I definitely want to do that. So started off in Taekwondo as a real young kid. And God, what did I do? I left it for a couple of years because I didn't like the way my instructor was teaching it. I did it on and off from like elementary school till 8th grade, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then stopped. And then in high school, I grew up in a really small town, so we didn't have a whole lot of options for martial arts. In high school, a jiu-jitsu guy came into town, Brazilian jiu-jitsu teacher, and I was training under him, and I loved it. But I was training under him for about a year before he kind of went through some lawsuit issues with the city. He got hit by a city bus, and he tried to sue them, and his lawyer didn't press charges in the allotted window time, so the charges got dropped. So then he tried to sue his lawyer for not suing the city, and the whole thing was just like it was standing. He couldn't afford to stay open, so he had to move. He had to move back home. But I loved that. Then there was about 2 years there where I had nothing going on. And I found one instructor who was teaching kind of the beginning forms of MMA. He would teach traditional arts. Like at first I was just taking kickboxing with him and Muay Thai. But then he was also teaching a little Taekwondo, a little Jiu-Jitsu, a little Aikido, a little Kali. So he was teaching multiple arts, but kind of keeping them sectioned off in their own areas, not really blending them together. And then after him, I found my previous instructors who I trained and coached out for 6 years back in Colorado. Mike in LA at Train Fight Win in Denver. Love them, love that gym. They were the ones that I really did the majority of my training with. MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Kali, got good at the stick and knife fighting.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the that was a long-winded version of how I got
Yeah,
good at martial arts.
that's really cool because I mean, I watched those, kung fu movies, and not
Hmm.
growing up in the States, I don't really have access to like any of the sports gyms
Hmm.
or whatever. But towards the end of my move out of Saudi Arabia, coming to California,
Hmm.
I had the opportunity to train for like 3 months Jeet Kune Do or kickboxing.
Yeah,
And I was like totally blown away. It's like, whoa, this is so awesome. But I never got around to getting back into it when I moved
yeah.
here.
I went around. I played the school sports growing up, and I enjoyed them. Even did
Hmm.
like some mountain biking and some solo sports on my own because my parents owned a bike and snowboard store. Um,
Dude.
but after high school, when doing school sports becomes a lot more difficult, I
Hmm.
always kept going back to martial arts. Like I've always just loved martial arts and the
Yeah.
camaraderie between everyone, but it's still a solo venture. So I don't know. It was always my calling and what I just keep coming back to. I love it.
No, it's really an amazing thing because it keeps you centered also. Not only are you humble,
Mhm.
but you're also like much more physically and spiritually like very centered. So that's really
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So now that we know about your little journey on martial arts, and that's probably how, is that one of the ways you got into the filmmaking part of it, or?
Well, in high school, I kind of did. It was like my junior or senior year. I had no desire to ever become an actor. I honestly didn't even
Hmm.
know it was a possibility or all of the industry existed because I grew up in
Yeah.
such a small town. I had a couple of buddies who were in the school play my junior year, and I just
Yeah.
decided, what the hell, why not? I'll audition and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it was very first play I ever did was Joseph
Mhm.
and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I was the
Nice.
I was the baker that gets killed off at the end of Act One, and then I was one of the
Oh.
background soldiers for the rest of it. But yeah, I did two plays in high school, and my drama teacher, the director, she told me, like, you're very natural on stage. You should
Mhm.
look into this when you go off to college. And I was going off to college to be an engineer. So,
Mm.
like a young, I know everything college student, I completely
Mm.
ignored everything she said because,
Like, yeah, sure.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm a growing boy and I know everything.
Yeah. Yep. I've got a
So,
couple of those.
so my freshman year of college, I was majoring in chemical engineering, and I
Mhm.
was actually doing Air Force ROTC, but I was
Nice.
taking like 19 credit hours, and the max they usually allow you to take is 18. So
Mhm.
I worked myself sick, got horrible grades, and just had a horrible time. So my second semester, I changed things around. I went from chemical engineering to electrical, and
Mhm.
I started thinking on what my drama teacher said, how I look natural on stage. So I looked at some of the acting classes, tried one out,
Mhm.
loved it. So I signed up for a minor in acting and did quite a few one acts in of the plays that were going on for the
Mhm.
university. So that was kind of my intro into acting and theater.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then when I went down to Denver, my theater was no longer an option because I would have
Mhm.
to travel for work and I would get like 1 week's notice, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and theater, I mean, you rehearse for 5 or 6 weeks, and then you got the
Mhm.
shows going for a couple weeks to a couple months, depending on the size of the production. So
Yeah.
theater was no longer an option for me. So I started looking at film, and
Yeah.
film. I mean, at first I hated it. I
Yeah.
really, really did not enjoy it. When you come from a live background and you're used to the audience and performing a linear story, and you just get to really move along with everything, film at first is really, really just not fun because you don't get any of that.
You don't get no feedback. You're just acting out in the mirror, basically.
Yeah,
Not even that, because you don't. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you don't get any feedback from the audience. You don't get to work through the whole story from start to finish. It's jump in, do this one part. Okay, do it again.
Mhm.
Okay, do it again.
Mhm.
All right, now we're
Yeah.
gonna now we're gonna jump to the beginning. Okay, now we're going to jump to the climax. Okay, now we're going to jump
Yeah.
to the end. Like
Yeah.
it's completely all over the place.
It's
Uh,
like the jump to conclusion, Matt.
yeah. Well, and the whole thing about theater is being big and larger than life and very animated so
Yeah,
that
it's
the
true.
people in the back can see you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you start doing that on camera and boy, do you look insane. Like,
Like,
it's,
what is this guy doing?
yeah, yeah. Why is he all over the place? Why is he so in my face? And just, yeah, this is weird. Um, so it took me a while to start to get an appreciation for film. Now I really love film, and I love them both for very
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. But
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
was
yeah.
the transition at first was not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was being an engineer down in Denver, I was doing film on the side, and
Yeah.
the whole time I've like through college, through my time in Denver, I was always I always knew I'd jump to the arts, whether it was playing music or being an actor. I just never
Mm-hmm.
knew when.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. That's really nice. I mean, I've thought about it.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, this would be so cool, but it's like, okay, you got to put in the time, you got to learn.
Oh yeah.
And I even took some classes, like masterclass.com was offering Kevin Spacey's teaching you acting,
Mhm.
and Werner Herzog, he's teaching you filmmaking. So I've taken those courses and taken those classes, and I had one opportunity to like act out this scene. I found this through backstage.com,
Mhm.
and they had they're doing this commercial for Kaiser Permanente, and they were looking for basically baby boomers
Yep.
to come in in the patient room, and as if they have. So I did a little scene over there. I was like, this is really exciting.
Uh-huh.
Wow, they're putting this the anti-shine stuff on your face so your face doesn't shine so much. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. I need this for real life. But yeah, I mean, we met when you were shooting for Anomalies
Mhm.
episode 1, and man, that was cold. That was a cold day. It was
Oh
really
man.
cold.
Oh man. Well, so I woke up that morning and it was kind of foggy,
Yeah.
and I mean the temperature wasn't bad when I left my house,
Hmm.
but as
Hmm.
I was driving to uh to location to film that morning, the
Yeah.
the temperature gauge on my car was dropping by the minute. I think it dropped 15 degrees from when I left my house to
Whoa.
when we started filming.
Yeah.
Because it was not that bad when I left my house. And then while we were out
Hmm.
there, yeah, it was so cold. The fog was hugging us. The snow was kind of
Hmm.
coming down. I think it was only like 10 or 12 degrees that day. It was
That's true.
freezing.
It was freezing. And that was my first experience. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this behind the scenes video. Let's see what happens. Like, boom, gold.
Luckily, by that point, I'd been in a couple. I'd been in a couple films already, so that
Hmm.
one was fun.
Yeah, yeah, that
I
was a lot
actually
of
I
fun.
actually met Justin.
Hmm.
God, what was it? 2 years prior to that. Um,
Okay.
Justin hired me for his. He had a senior project that he was doing for Colorado Film School. I went in
Hmm.
and auditioned,
Hmm.
and he really liked me. So funny
Yeah.
side story on this one. He really liked me.
Yeah.
I thought the audition went great. Then time went by and I never heard back from him. And I knew what day they were doing like kind of a little camera test for it.
Yeah.
And I never heard back. So I'm like, oh well, okay, that sucks. But then it's a Saturday morning. I'm at home playing
Yeah.
some video games. I get a call from him. He's like, hey, is this Andrew Caters? I'm like, yeah, man, what's going on? He's like, hey, so we thought we've been talking to you this whole time, and it turns out it was another guy. And like, we really wanted you for this part. And,
Yeah.
today this guy showed up on set. So we're like, who are you? And he's like,
You're-
I'm Andrew. And they're like, Caters? And he's like, no, so and so. So they're like, oh.
Sorry.
So they
Got the
gave me,
wrong
yeah,
Andrew.
yeah. So they were talking to the wrong guy the whole time. So they gave me a last minute call and they're like, dude, can you get here right now? I'm like, yeah, I'll be right there. So I go there for the callback, do an on camera test. I had like 10 minutes to look over the script. We did a
Hmm.
reading. They really liked it. So they cast me for the actual project. And then,
Nice.
yeah, it was 2 years late, about a year or 2 years later, they were doing
Hmm.
Anomaly. and they've been auditioning leads, and they couldn't find anyone. So Justin actually reached out to me and was asking if I'd be interested in auditioning for that role.
Yeah.
So I got to come in, meet Terrell, say hi to Justin again, audition for that role. And yeah, I love that part. So I was happy it all worked out again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really cool. I mean, being part of that whole crew is really cool.
Oh, I love those
I
guys.
actually, yeah, I love those guys too. I actually met, I think Aaron told me about him, and I met those guys through, like, I went to this Boulder Film Festival volunteer party, and I volunteered there, and I met Aaron, and he's like, and then he called me up. He's like, "Hey, would you like to do behind the scenes video for this TV series we're shooting?" I was like, "Sure, absolutely, I'd love to." And then that's how I met like everybody.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. In fact, I'm recording this on my phone. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
I was like, and since then, I've like, that is my like origin story. Like, where did I start video?
Yep.
So much fun.
Yeah, I mean, Justin was my first paying gig. It was the first gig. His senior project was the first one I ever made money on. Then Anomaly was one of the first web series I got to do. And we shot the pilot episode for Anomaly, and then they went out and looked for funding on it. So right now it's on the back burner, but they're still working on it and planning on producing it.
Yeah. I remember, because I keep, because I think I've been talking with Terrell, and he was working on a new film called Infrared Dreams.
Yeah.
And
they're in the middle of production on that one right now.
Yeah. And I was telling him, hey, I want to bring you onto the podcast so we can talk about the movie. He's like, let's wait till the movie's done, and then we can come and talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like, awesome. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
And so yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, film industry has just blown up. It's just going crazy. I mean, you've got TV shows, Netflix got TV shows, Amazon's got TV shows, Hulu's got TV shows.
Everyone's just cranking out content left and right now.
Exactly. It's crazy. So man, we talked about a lot of awesome things, and I mean, I just live for these stories because they're so full of life and so full of right, so full of so much joy and like heart and emotions. It's perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah. So at this point, I mean, we can go on forever. I mean, I think we've
probably go on for a while.
So let me ask some questions that we bring on, ask our guests.
Yeah.
What is one hobby that you wish you got into? And I know you've had several hobbies.
Oh yeah, I got too many freaking hobbies. God, if I had to pick one. All right, this one's twofold. I wish I'd gotten into because I've been playing music my whole life, but I didn't get into playing guitar until much later. So I kind of wish I'd gotten into playing guitar a lot earlier, because I don't know, maybe I'd feel better about it right now and less frustrated, or not. Who knows? But then another one is I grew up in a retail store, a bike shop, so I've always been wrenching on mountain bikes, road bikes, skateboards. I've always been a very hands-on, blue-collar worker. But the one thing I never really got deep into was working on cars and motorcycles, engines. I know the basic stuff. I've replaced I can do oil change. I've replaced my alternator. I've done the shocks and the struts and the brakes. But anything that comes to the engine, I don't know a single thing about it. So that would have been one that if I had gotten into a hobby, I probably would have really liked that one.
No, I totally get it. I've had similar experiences with changing the struts,
Uh-huh.
the brakes, and stuff. And but my brother, he actually swapped out the engine in his car.
Oh wow.
That was a 3-month project
Jeez.
because he's just got the car parked under the carport,
Uh-huh.
and he's just going on YouTube looking like, oh, this is what we do. Oh, this is how you put in, because he had bought a 240 SX, and then he put in a turbocharged engine from Japan
Oh,
with
okay.
new clutch and everything. I was like, whoa, dude,
Wow.
that's crazy. So
Yeah.
him and his friend, they would just be working on that car every weekend,
Hmm.
and he didn't have to worry about the cold because we're in California. We don't really get that
Yeah.
much cold.
Yeah.
Is a lot of fun. Nice, man.
Yeah.
So being an actor,
Yeah.
what would be your favorite movie or TV show?
I'm the I'm the worst actor. I'm really bad. No, the thing is like I'm nonstop busy. So like
Mm-hmm.
out here when I'm not acting on projects, I got a day
Mm-hmm.
job, and my day job's being a grip or a rigger.
Okay.
And so when I'm not working, I'm doing my day job, and when I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing either one of those, I'm constantly training. So I'm at class, or I'm learning gymnastics, or I'm doing my martial arts. So by the time I get home at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
really have like an hour of computer work and make
Mm-hmm.
food and go to bed. So
Go to bed.
I am terrible about watching any movies or TV shows.
Which is perfectly fine, man. Which is perfectly fine because you know what?
Although I do enjoy Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is good.
Okay, Game of Thrones is awesome.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
I barely. I mean, I used to watch a lot of TV, but now that and then I realized that I'm just wasting a lot of time. I need to I need to do work on stuff that I absolutely am passionate about, and um, doing the podcast and building a business, and like
Mhm.
right now I'm working on a video course and help entrepreneurs and realtors how to shoot video using their smartphones.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun coming along. And I wrote a chapter in the book last month, and
Yeah.
working on a book myself later this year. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm also trying to write, like I like I mentioned earlier, I play guitar, but I've never actually produced like an EP.
sure.
So I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. Like I'm trying to
Nice.
collaborate with some buddies to fill in parts on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't happen, then I'm going to write it all. And it might be terrible, but I'm going to do it.
No, that's really, really awesome. So I have a lot of family down there. I mean, I can connect you with a few people that are into music.
Oh, nice.
I know one of my cousins. He did a lot of he released his own EPs and whatnot back in the days. But I think he's up in San Francisco. But regardless, there's some other cousins that are into music.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's some connections.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this one is a fun one.
Okay.
What is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, favorite superhero.
I bet it's Blue Ninja Moto.
It's which one?
Blue Ninja Moto.
Blue Ninja Moto.
I'm kidding. That was your role in the Jean-Claude Van Damme's movie.
My lord, that was a fun little project.
Yeah.
God, favorite superhero. It's interesting because I always have a hard part picking favorites because I like certain aspects of each one.
Of course. Yeah.
Like Tony Stark, the suit's badass, but he's mostly just a smart guy with an AI.
Yes.
I mean, visual wise, I get told I look like Chris Evans for a fair amount. So maybe I should just say Captain America and take over the franchise.
America. Right.
Captain America. Vote for me to take over the franchise.
All right, we will do that. we'll be sure to put the link in the show notes, and you can vote for Andrew Cater's.
vote, because that's how that works. Yes.
That's right. That's right. And I think I've told you this before, but you have a kind of look-alike Tom Cruise. I think
Oh
you've been,
yeah.
right?
I've been getting that since I was 14 years old.
Yeah. I could actually market this and be like, dude, I interviewed Tom Cruise look-alike. Like, what? Tom Cruise?
No way, you got Tom Cruise on. Heck, I was at the grocery store. I had a big beard for a project I was working on, and I was at the grocery store the other day. And I walk in, the guy behind the deli, I just kind of said hi to him, and he was just like locking eyes with me in disbelief for a second. And then he's all like, "Oh, damn, man! Like, for a minute there, I swore to God you were Tom Cruise."
Oh man, that's so cool.
I've gotten that before.
Yep. All right, this one is a kind of interesting one my friend told me about.
Okay.
If you were a board game, like you as a human being was a board game, what board game would it be?
Oh wow, I like that question. This is going to take me a second to think on it. Let's go with. I can't even think of a lot of board games right now, but what the hell? Let's go with Risk. Let's go with Risk. Risk sounds like
Risk is a good one. Yes, it's a fun one. Yep, absolutely. Perfect, man. Love it. I love it. What is something that you're looking forward to this year?
This year is actually shaping out to be a pretty good one because I've got a couple projects in the works with a few friends. I just signed on with a pretty major agency, National Talent LA, and they work a lot with action actors. So a lot of actors who work in action films and can perform their own stunts. And they've already been sending me out on a couple auditions. So that's really exciting. I got my EP that I'm working on. So that's really exciting. Yeah, right. There's just things have been interesting lately, but there's still forward motion. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens this year.
Nice. I'm super excited for you, man.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that we've kept in touch over the years.
Yeah.
And you're just this cool dude. Like anybody can just hang out and be like, "What? You're in all these movies?" And you don't have that. I'm all this, at all. You're like super humble. I love it.
Man, I am far from being like a typical Hollywood anything.
Yeah,
including a working actor, but I'm working on it.
You're working on being a douche.
Yeah. Let me start being an asshole to people and looking down on them, and maybe I'll get these bigger roles. I don't know. We'll find out.
I don't know, man. I think you're perfect the way you are.
Oh, yeah, you're so kind. Thank you.
You're gonna go far with this, man.
I'm working on it. It's a marathon though, so it takes time and keep working at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've got to stay consistent, and like some of the things that I am watching and listening to are other authors and other speakers that are like building their own platform. Like Seth Godin's got some amazing books on marketing.
Yeah,
and he's been blogging since like the 60s.
Oh wow.
And he's the first person who's ever had an email. He's one of the pioneers who's created some of the things that we use on the internet.
Oh wow, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, and he's like, I've been writing every single day. So he's got like over 7,000 posts somewhere.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy smokes! And he's like, if you don't have bad writing, you're not gonna have good writing. So what you're doing with your EP, and you're saying, I'm going to do it even if it's bad. This is perfect, because then you're going to learn and you can turn around and like, oh, this is how you do it good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it takes experience. It takes releasing projects. Like it's not just you keep working on the same project over and over and over again until it's finally good. No, you work on a project, you release it, even though it's terrible, and you do it again and you do it again. And every time you get incrementally better. So that's what I'm working on. I've been trying to think of like another entrepreneurial thing to do, like writing or like a course or something. I don't know what though, because a lot of these guys that release stuff, they kind of have a specialty. Like it's
Sure.
Here's how you record better. Here's how you work on this kind of thing. Here's how you do this. And I'm such a renaissance man where I do a little bit of everything. I don't know how the heck I'd even target it.
Well, I think one area that you could focus on is the stunt double piece.
Yeah.
Like, how do you become a stunt double, right? That's a very specific, and of course, there's a lot of people that are into martial arts that were like, hey, maybe they have a place as a stunt double in the movie industry. So maybe that could be something.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to write a chapter in this book called Magnetic Entrepreneur.
Okay.
And the way I wrote it was I first talked it out. I just talked to myself and I recorded like 2.5 hours of just me talking because I was commuting and I was like, hey, I can just talk to myself and tell my story.
Yeah.
I ended up with like 17,000 words and this chapter just needed 2,000 words. So I'm like, hey, maybe there's a book here.
Yeah.
But that's something that you could look into, like just talking it out, because sometimes you don't have the time to just sit down and write stuff.
Yeah.
But you can talk.
Yeah.
Talk it out. And
I mean, we've all got phones now that record everything. So
Exactly. And what's funny is that when I started the podcast, I was like, oh, Anchor is so easy because you're recording the podcast directly on your iPhone. I'm like, holy shit, this is so much easier than actually sitting down and talking. So that gave me a really good boost into getting into it.
Nice.
But yeah, man, it's been pretty exciting. I'm at almost 100 episodes.
Yeah,
published.
getting close. Nice.
Yeah. So super excited for that and super excited to talk to you, man. This was really fun.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we'll meet again. We'll talk again when you have your next movie out, and then we can talk more about it. And so tell my audience, where can they find you? I mean, I'm definitely going to include the links down below.
Yeah. So I have my acting Facebook page. It's Andrew J. Caters. It's an acting page. On Instagram and Twitter, my handle is @AJ Caters, Katers. And then I've also got a website that's andrewcaters.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you.
This was a lot of fun. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a safe trip.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.